Welcome back, everyone, to Just the Little Leagues podcast, NXT Takeover. This is episode 2.
All right, everybody, we're coming back hot. Week 2 after New Year's Evil with some repercussions from Eddie Thorpe and Obafemi, the Don and Ridge, a.k.a. Santa, and the fallout of last week's altercation between Bayley and Roxanne.
Starting out our amazing NXT night, Tony D'Angelo versus Ridge Holland for the NXT North American Championship. During the match, Shawn Spears was watching.
Watching? I have a question. Does Shawn Spears love his elbow, or does he have a medical issue?
What do you mean by that?
Were you watching? He was right in front of us. The entire time, he doesn't just rest his elbow in his hand. He's caressing it. He's rubbing it like that's where he keeps his thoughts. His thoughts are somehow in his elbow.
Well, that's kind of weird. I wasn't paying attention to him because I don't want to look at that terrible haircut. But he decided he was done watching and was going to yell at Tony when the Don hit Ridge with a spear. Tony hit him off the ring, and Nico Vance and Brooks Jensen came out and attacked Luca and Stax. Izzy Dame came out and kicked Ridge in the head while the ref wasn't looking. Then, Tony hit a spinebuster and won the match.
Then backstage in the locker room, we see TNT with Wes Lee. Wes said Dion was a funny dude telling Oba he was championship material. Dion retaliated with someone's going to beat him one day, and he knows it's not Wes. So why not Dion?
Then Wes said there's a big difference between a superstar of potential and a decorated superstar, like Wes. But, I don't think Wes can call himself a decorated superstar. And Dion said, what other way to prove potential than defeating a former championship like Wes? Wes finished by saying Dion has a long way to go, and their match is later. Then, Wes was dissing and making fun of Trick, who was also in the locker room, and Trick slapped the taste out of Wes's mouth.
Up next, we had the hardest working woman in WWE, who's gone from NXT to SmackDown to Raw and back to NXT, Bayley. Bayley came out and talked a little bit about what happened last week, about how Roxanne is following Bayley around. Then, Julia came out and told Bayley she really looks up to her. As Bayley was beginning to give Julia some advice, out comes Roxanne and Cora. Roxanne and Cora tried to say something, but the boos were deafening. The boo birds were definitely out in force, and I couldn't hear a word they were saying.
Nope. Everyone started chanting, "Shut the hell up," and they fought for 3 whole minutes. And of course, Bayley and Julia came out on top.
Now we cut to the ladies' locker room where Jada's been watching, and Kalani starts talking to her when Jada automatically stops her to tell Lonnie to get back to the drawing board. They start arguing, and Carmen Petrovic started talking about love when Jada points out she got her first kiss from a guy that's going to leave her in a few months. They start fighting, and the rest of the locker room breaks them up.
That match is going to be up later. But for now, it's Dion Lennox versus Wes Lee. Wes started the match by throwing his jacket at Dion. But a bit later, Dion got the upper hand by sending Wes in the air and letting him free fall. Yet somehow, Wes won the match with the combo of kicks and a cartwheel into a kick. After the match, Wes said he's going to take care of Trick next week, when Trick came out and got Wes down, and said if he wants to go, next week they can.
I don't know if this was on TV or not, but as Trick was leaving the arena, it looked like Dion was kind of looking at him like, "Hey, Trick, I got your back." And Trick just shouldered him out of the way, and Dion looked really angry as Trick was walking it backstage.
Yeah, it did get showed, and that's why later on backstage we see Dion being all upset when he said a cuss word.
Up next, we had Lexis King versus Charlie Dempsey for the Heritage Cup Championship.
Just saying, I kissed the cup.
In the first round, nobody got a point. As we went to the corner in the end of the first, we saw that Lexis had William Regal's brass knucks in his bucket.
Yet William Regal was nowhere in sight.
In the second round, Lexis scored the first fall. Then in round 3, Charlie scored the second fall. So we go into round 4 tied up. As they grappled in the corner, Charlie had Lexis pushed up against the ref, giving Lexis the opportunity to donkey kick Charlie in the groin, scoring the final pinfall and retaining the Heritage Cup.
As he should, since he's the king. All hail the king. And I thought, even though Lexis did kick him there, it doesn't matter because, he deserves a cup.
I'm going to go out and say this is some of my favorite booking right now. When we first started watching NXT, I didn't get Lexus. The painted on beard, the flamboyant attitude, I wasn't feeling it. But since they've been doing the entire I don't want to be my dad, I'm my own guy, I'm going to be righteous, that part of it's really been capturing my attention. And watching him fight himself, making the decision of I'm not going to use the brass knucks, I'm not going to do this, but then breaking down and kicking him in the groin, points to Lexus for securing the win. But now the question is going to be, is he going to regret the kick? Or is he going to embrace the fact that you can bend the rules if the ref is distracted? Which, as we know, the refs get distracted a lot.
I don't know what you're talking about painting on beard. It is very real.
Check his Instagram.
Backstage, we see Mr. Chase talking to Hank and Tank, and he's all sad, just like last week. And a group of people in the other room are watching a compilation of Mr. Chase being
Badass.
And Cale Dixon tells Mr. Chase that he's...
I guess this is when I say badass.
And Mr. Chase said he was, and Chase used dead. But, yet again, Cale Dixon says it doesn't have to be. So, I'm wondering if they're going to bring Chase U back. Because I miss Thea and Duke and Riley. It's very sad.
Yeah, but they're all banned and expelled from Chase U. So if Chase U does come back, are they going to be their own stable? Are they going to form their own? Or am I going to finally get the Thea Hale heel turn that I've been waiting for?
It's Thea Hale, not Thea Heel.
I want it to be Thea Heel. We now have Carmen Petrovic and Jada Parker. Carmen Petrovic managed to win the match because Miss Parker got distracted when Kalani came out, and she got the quick roll-up for the pin.
Pretty short match. Don't really have anything to say about it. But both of them, they're doing pretty good in NXT.
No, Trevor, you can see what's going on here. Carmen doesn't take the loss. Kalani and Miss Parker set something up for a fight in the future. And the romance is still alive.
It'll be dead soon. Especially with Nikita around. Clearly she wants him Ashante. Now, our second to last match, Luca Crucifino and Stax versus Nico Vance and Brooks Jensen. Somehow and sadly, Luca and Stax lost. Very disappointing to me. Brooks and Nico won because Nico destroyed Luca when he speared him into the steel steps, and Brooks hit Stax with a spinning heel kick. And afterwards, Nico hit Stax with the clothesline that turned Stax inside out. But during this whole match, Vidon was nowhere to be seen, but Sean Spears was with them.
So backstage we see Tony talking to Izzy Dame when Tony tells her he has places to be. But it's a little bit late because Luca and Stax had already lost their match. So the rest of the family finds Tony, and Adriana asks him where he was. He says he was trying to get out of there, but Izzy kept talking and talking, and asked how they did. Luca said they lost. Stax continued with saying how he was waiting for Tony to come out, and he was worried about him. Sean was there with his guys, and Tony was nowhere to be found.
Tony said he was fine and he was trying to get out there. But Stax said they needed him. And Tony said to Stax he's been the underboss for 2 years now, and he can figure things out on his own. The family doesn't seem to like how Vidon wasn't out there, and some family drama might be going on the next few weeks.
All right, so here's my take, Trevor. Picture this and tell me what you think. Sean Spears, while he was rubbing his elbow for the last couple of months, was first trying to recruit Izzy into his little crew. Whatever faction he was forming started with a conversation with Izzy. One thing that I've really wanted to see at NXT is some long-term storytelling, and I think we may be getting a piece of it here. All right, Trevor, so here's what I want you to picture. Imagine this. This little rift with Stax being told to figure it out on his own is going to cause problems in the family. Stax and Tony are going to come to a head. They have 2 years worth of history. Past tag team champions. Stax committing crimes until he wins a belt. Not having a belt and reverting to cannolis. And now this. So what are we going to do? They're going to keep fighting. Izzy somehow injected herself into the family and distracted the Don. I'm willing to bet this all started with Sean Spears. He was trying to recruit Izzy into his crew, and maybe outside of the TV cameras, he did. Sooner or later, we're going to find out Izzy was in on this all along to take everything away from the Don.
That would be just terrible.
I know you're a Stacks fanboy, Trevor, but what would be better?
Obviously the family staying together. I can't have another Judgment Day.
What I'm hoping to see in this is Tony gets called up in the next draft. Stacks gets to step up into his own role. Him and Luca can become the dominant tag team that we want them to be. And we can begin to form a new story.
Yeah, Luca and Stax really need those championships.
Well, now we got some TNA championships they can go after as well.
I don't know. I like the gold more than the red.
TNA's coming to Orlando.
Wait, what's that? There's breaking news.
Stax crimes and cannoli eating, Stax was in prison until found innocent in court and freed. Stax yesterday posted a video, and it's season 2 of eating cannoli every day for every 100 followers he gets until he becomes an NXT champion again, or until he becomes 300 pounds. But in other news, we have a new person on a crime spree. He calls himself Teo Morton. He's committing a crime a week until he joins the D'Angelo family. His newest crime was the use of a fake ID at an alcoholic store, and he bought alcohol. Stax posted yesterday a picture of himself and Teo was holding up 2 signs of Stax and Luca. Stax tagged Teo in this video, and the description said, "Do it yourself," a quote said by Tony D'Angelo this week on Tuesday, something that he said to Stax. And as Teo posted on his story yesterday, maybe, with all this family drama, he could join the family. And that's all the news we have for you today. Thank you.
Backstage in Ava's office, we see Javon asking for a match against Ethan Page, but he is nowhere near medically cleared. But Cedric is. So next week, Cedric Alexander versus Ethan Page. And Austin Theory with Grayson Waller paid Ava a visit. They'll be watching the main event, and whoever wins this match will be on the Grayson Waller effect next week.
So now we have our main event, Eddie Thorpe versus Obafemi for the NXT Championship. 8 Down was watching the match from the balcony, and Austin Theory was streaming it on Instagram the entire time. So, of course, Oba won the match. But I'm going to be honest, I feel like they gave Eddie a little bit too much offense. I want to see Oba crush a couple people to be the dominant force of NXT that he is. That's why I loved when he told Trick, I allowed it. So I don't want to see Oba allowing anybody to knock him around.
Yeah, I want Oba to be able to end matches like that.
After the match, Grayson ripped his shirt and was yelling hot air at Oba, but nothing happened. Maybe they'll have a confrontation this week in the Waller effect. But what did happen was Trick coming up behind Oba. Eddie tried to get back in with the strap he had, but he got hit with a trick shot, and Oba and Trick stared each other down just as the show went off the air.
And before we end this episode, I would like to apologize for my voice as I've been sick the last couple of days. But that's it for Just the Little Leagues podcast, NXT Takeover, episode 2. Thank you for watching, and see you next week. Goodbye. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Goodbye.